Let me start by saying this. Gap has not had a rebrand. Even with the recent launch of Gap Studio designed by Zach Posen, they've not rebranded. They have had a very successful comeback. To understand the difference between a rebrand and a comeback, let's keep looking at Gap's recent success, which falls firmly in the latter category. When they launched their Linen Moves campaign with Tyla back in 2024, they created headlines in the best way possible. People were like,
"Oh yes, Gap is back."
Now, personally, I never thought they left because I have been a huge fan of this brand even during their quote-unquote lower moments, and you can literally confirm this by asking anyone in my life. Now, have they tried to stretch what the Gap style could look like over the years with trendy pieces? Absolutely. But what was clear to me when they went from Tyla to Troye Sivan in the Get Loose campaign later that year is that they weren't interested in rebranding themselves. Gap's marketing often included movement and dance, which has always paired nicely with their classic casual American style. That's what we got back in the 90s and 2000s, and it's what we're getting now. Here's their brand CEO, Richard Dixon, or Dick Dixon for the frisky folk out there, talking about the phenomenal year Gap Inc. had in 2024.
We proved that we can matter even more. Our reinvigoration playbook rooted each brand with a distinctive purpose, commitment to incredible product, relevant marketing, media, and partnerships that tell engaging stories, compelling customer experiences in-store and online, executed with excellence. While each brand is in its own stage of reinvigoration, the progress is real.
Did you hear his very intentional use of that verb in the clip? Dixon choosing to say that Gap Inc. is being reinvigorated is very important. He didn't use the transitive verb rebrand because he knew he was not going to move away from the true essence of what Gap is known for. So what is a rebrand? To me, a rebrand is when your company or organization emerges with a new identity after you modify any number of defining elements. This can include your visual identity, messaging, or the products or services offered. To reiterate, what Gap has experienced is a phenomenal comeback, and that's when your brand perception becomes highly favorable again. Sometimes a company needs a rebrand. Other times, they just need a well-executed comeback. And hopefully this next statement doesn't confuse anyone, but when done right, a rebrand can lead to a major comeback. And despite their related nature, I want to stress that these two things are about as interchangeable as JoJo Siwa and Coco Jones. Abercrombie & Fitch is the perfect example of a similar retailer who has rebranded. At the height of its popularity in the 2000s, Abercrombie was the brand of choice for young, white, middle-class bullies in the Midwest. It was also described as preppy surfer, but in 2021, TikTok users embraced the brand for its massive sartorial pivot. They ditched the moose and oversized logos, and in its place were faux leather pants and chic baggy trousers.
Over the past few years, we've been laser focused on listening to our customers, and TikTok has been the perfect platform for fostering that communication.
Despite that Netflix documentary pointing out all of its flaws in 2022, Abercrombie was basically unscathed. Consumers didn't care about who Abercrombie used to be because they loved who they had become. This rebrand led to a very lucrative comeback too. After their 2024 fiscal close in February, Abercrombie reported net sales of $4.9 billion, which was up 16% compared to the previous year. There are many reasons why you might want to rebrand, but whichever compels you to do so, there are really only two things you need to keep in mind. The first is the willingness to evolve. If things aren't working out for your brand, trust your primal intuition, leave your ego at the door, and shake things up. You gotta be prepared to adapt and refine your new identity as you learn and grow, because being rigid is the enemy of a successful rebrand. The second thing is exceptional communication. You need to be able to articulate the why behind your rebrand to those internally and externally. If it's not clear to people on your team or easy to grasp by the public, you might as well go straight to jail. So the next time you hear someone talk about a rebrand, try to think through if it's truly a reinvention or simply a refresh. There's nothing wrong with either. They're just not synonymous.